We'll continue this week of Lockdown NHL in Utah. We're going to get back to helping you get to know your team with some player profiles. This episode, let's talk about the Sherrif, Lawson Crouse.
You are Locked on NHL in Utah, your daily podcast on all things hockey in Utah, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked on NHL in Utah. I'm your host, Robyn Leonio, alongside Tom Callahan. I want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available everywhere you get your shows. We're going to continue our Get to Know Your Team series as we get some more player profiles. It's been a little bit since we've done one, Tom. We're now going to talk about another core player of this franchise in Lawson Crouse, someone who cemented himself as a core player of this franchise.
Absolutely. And Crouse is a guy that I got to see coming up through the American Hockey League with Tucson, and someone they had their eye on for quite some time, Robyn, before he actually, I would say the last 3 years, really coming out of the bubble, the COVID era, that whole thing. It was down season for a lot of people, let's be honest, on and off the ice. But since then, I think you talk about cementing yourself in. I think he has absolutely done that for now Utah. And I look at this guy and say, you know what? This is what they were projecting him to be, what they wanted to see out of him. Obviously, you can't teach size. We hear scouts say that all the time. And I love it. I love seeing the big guy out there. It's a lot of fun. I even love the nickname, the Sherrif. I think that's an awful lot of fun, too.
I remember hearing the story of where he got the name Sherrif, but I can't recall exactly what it was anymore. I'm not sure if you remember at all. I'm pretty sure he still had that nickname when he was going through his years in Tucson, which a lot of us enjoyed that during those years as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't remember it either at this point. It's been, I don't want to say it's been
so
a while, but it's been a minute or two since then. But you know what? Even then, with Crouse coming up, the big objective for him was, number one, to kind of fill out, get comfortable with his frame, get bigger, stronger, grow into that body, which he's done. And now he's coming in. He's 26 right now. I feel like NHL players tend to peak around 27. And if you look at his numbers the last 3 years, he's been a half point a game guy. All of his power play goals, all 16, have come in the last 3 seasons. He has really gotten to a point, I think, where he's established himself on special teams. He's established himself 5-on-5. And people know who he is now. And I think he is one of the leaders of this franchise as they move to Utah. He is a huge element on that team, and they really value his contributions.
And he really has, and the growth over those years, and I think is a really good testament to really just taking a look at how much he's put into this franchise. I don't think he is he's not technically completely Arizona grown. Like he was like Arizona grown when he was with Arizona, because I think he was drafted by Florida initially before he was traded to Arizona,
right.
And got
11th overall by Florida. Yeah.
11th overall from Florida, which a lot of people love to when that I think that first year that Crouse came on over, when there was that what is it, all first round line. I think that's what it was, with Dylan Strome, Nick Merkley, and Lawson Crouse. Nothing against the other two. Dylan Strome's making a pretty decent name for himself elsewhere in the league.
And Merkley just keeps dealing with injuries. I feel so bad for Nick Merkley. Not to get off on the beaten path, but man, he could have been so much more.
He dealt with a lot, but it seems that even though Crouse has gone through a lot, he's the one out of that top line from Tucson that a lot of us remember, who's really emerged himself to be that Arizona grown, and now going to be a huge factor for this Utah Hockey Club franchise. That's really going to impress a lot of people, and probably going to be a fan favorite.
Oh, absolutely. I think he is. It's kind of fun. Like these guys, the younger guys, they wear their unusual numbers because sometimes they get them in camp and they just stick with them. And I think that you see players who are coming up now wearing different and non-traditional numbers. They're out there a little bit more. You might catch them on social media a little bit more, and it's just a different generation of player. But he's also a throwback in a lot of ways, which I think endears him to the older fans of the game, people who appreciate, a guy who's not afraid to get his nose dirty, although his PIMs aren't high. But look, Crouse is not the guy who's going to go out there and try to beat someone down every night, but that player doesn't really exist in the league anymore. But he can still be a presence out there in a lot of ways, and he excels at doing that. So, yeah, I think he will. He'll be up among the leader in Utah jersey sales in the early going.
And he will be. And I'm just taking a look at his stats right now. And I'm going to go, of course, just a little bit more in depth as we go later in the show. But just taking a look, and then very briefly on points before I go more in depth. Just taking a look. I'm going to start with that. What is that? That COVID year, right? So right before the COVID year, it's like 2019, 2020, 66 games and 15 goals. The COVID year, 51 games and 4 goals. He was really snake bitten that year. 65 games, 20 goals, 77, 24, and then 81 games, almost a full season. First time got close to that, and 23 goals, 42 points. He's really improved, and it really shows his dedication. And I feel like, and again, it goes to what we were saying. He's going to become a favorite because of how dedicated he is to the team. And it really just shows, too, I want to add this, of how much a coaching change can change how he's been. He struggled under Rick Tocchet, and under Andre Tourigny, he has thrived.
Yep, 3 straight 20-goal seasons. His 23 this year, that tied you for 98th, which is actually not bad. And again, 40-point guy now, 20 goals, 40 points. I think what the Coyotes would like is to see 25 and 50. I think if he can kind of get to that range, that's exactly who they want him to be this coming season. Could he have a year where he heats up and scores 30? I think so. Here's the interesting thing. If you look at his shooting percentage the last couple of years, 2 years over 15%, 1 year at 13%, that's kind of high. But the interesting thing is he scored 20 goals doing that 3 years in a row. So now my thought is Lawson Crouse that good of a shooter that he should be encouraged to shoot more? And I think that's an experiment worth trying. It's a road worth going down with Lawson Crouse and saying, hey, and some guys are not built-in shooters, and they'd rather distribute or whatever the case may be. Certainly his power play time has helped his numbers go up because you just bang it in with the shovel. But I think Crouse needs to be encouraged to shoot the puck more. You want those 3 extra goals, get him to 25, 26. You want those 8 extra goals, get him to 31, 32, 33. Let's see what he can do with a little higher volume of shots, because that shooting percentage is high, and I would say on a 1-year basis unsustainable. But when you see 13, 15, 15, I feel like that's a guy you need to tell to shoot the puck more.
There's a lot to that you can use for his advantage for him on growing on that. And I'm going to talk about that really quickly. But right first, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200, and you can bet on everything from who's going to win the World Series to who's going to win in tomorrow's game. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get it and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Let's keep things going on this episode of Locked On NHL in Utah, talking about Lawson Crouse. And I want to say this really quickly, Tom. We got a chance to take a look it up really quick. And the reason he was named Sherrif because he's physical. I guess that give more of a reason why
he's the law in this town.
Yep, got to respect. You respect the law, and he'll lay it down. That's gotta love it. But one of the things that you mentioned is getting him to shoot the puck more and get more comfortable with that. I feel like in the past, a lot of probably what it was he was paired alongside Schmaltz and Keller, who are those playmakers, who are the goal scorers, and he just kind of felt like he took a back seat today. He kind of like let them take care of the show. Uh, in the last couple years, and it's shown, and again, it goes with those 20 goal seasons, he's taken a different role. He's no longer paired with Clayton Keller on the same line. He is now a middle six forward. He's using his power forward ability, helping maybe some of the younger, smaller kids, and is those that are still more pass first in mentality. I want to see. I think I saw him several games this last year, paired alongside Matias Maccelli. Matias Maccelli is a pass first guy. Lawson Crouse takes those opportunities, and he's able to shoot the puck more. Let's see if we can do that even more in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. And you talk about the coaching change and how that has served Lawson Crouse. I look at his time on ice also has improved. Now, last year dipped just a little bit, but again, taking the last 3 seasons as a whole, his TOI has gone from 13, 14 minutes a night to all of a sudden over 17, last year down to 16:49. But to me, number one, that's that little extra special teams time, right? Now he's playing big power play minutes and he's producing 16 power play goals in 3 years is nothing to sneeze at. And he's also getting that extra ice time. So now I think when you're showing that trust in a player, you're showing that confidence in a player as a new coach. I think Andre Tournier comes in and really says to these guys, we are a capable hockey team. I believe in you, but we're going to, it's almost like he wanted to play to different strengths, and again, we talk about the way Tocchet's teams play. It's very evident that it was a different style of hockey. Now, whether you like that or you didn't like that as a Coyotes fan, it's neither here nor there, but the style has changed. And so that's why the players are also changing out. Now we have really, I think, established an identity for this team, which may change a little bit again this year, especially with the shuffling on the D. That's really going to be something that we're going to have to see how that all irons itself out. But up front, I think this team knows who they are. And I think that Crouse is a big part of that identity and will continue to be going forward.
He absolutely will be. And it goes into a lot of the discussion of, I think, the confidence that they all have in him, right? I want to go back to a conversation we had about the other 2 players we talked about, and Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. They were part of that, what we called that short leash line under Rick Tocchet his final year. You and I already said it, and I might as well say it again. Maybe there's some people who are tuning in for the first time. Highly recommend you guys listen to those episodes if you haven't already. That's not a whole lot of way to instill confidence in your players, and you say that when you say publicly that they're either the short leash line or just that your top players are on a short leash. That's not a way to help them out, especially for a guy like Crouse, who that year, if we remember, who was having a severely snake bitten year where he was essentially just hitting, like, he had so many shots, probably I think more shots than he's ever had before, but kept hitting the post. He something was in his head, kept hitting the post, kept hitting the crossbar, and he wasn't. And that's what I said. It was a snake bitten year for him. He wasn't able to get anything done. You replace that with confidence. He's gonna get more done, and it's gonna help the rest of the team along the way.
Robyn, I think that not only are fans certainly guilty of this, but I think we as commentators, as analysts, even as front office personnel, can be guilty of forgetting that these guys are human. Everybody deals with things on and off the ice. They're not automatons. They're not robots just out there, must shoot puck. They are affected by different things. And you're right. Going home at night after the coach, it's one thing if it's said behind closed doors and you go home at night and you're still going to feel terrible, right? You're going to look at yourself, and most guys, not everybody, but you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and say, all right, I got to pick it up, or what do I need to do differently? Or, for some guys, it goes into an existential spiral. Who am I? Why am I here? Why am I playing hockey? But to do it publicly is a different tack altogether. Now, clearly, it was intended as a motivational tool. I don't think it quite worked out that way. No. It had the knock-on effect of probably doing just the opposite of what Talk had intended to do, which was fire those guys up, get them to go flying out there, and all of a sudden, boom, break the bubble, and now we're back to producing and everything's good. But when you get pulled off after you make a single mistake and you get sat for a while and you just sit there and think about what you've done and your confidence is already low, you're right, it's in your head now. So I think it was good to have that whole just different outlook, new coaching staff, new vision, new system, everything, and to hit the reset button for those guys and for everybody on this team. And that's why I think Utah this coming season, just to, kind of feed it all back into where the team's going, I think is ready to take that step forward. And again, move itself into that playoff orbit, that playoff bubble of teams that are fighting for those 7 and 8 wild card spots.
And I'll add one more thing too. And again, I don't want to dig too much on coaching, but it was also maybe it could just be an overall system thing. Because here's a comparison, Tom, too. I almost tend to forget about. Previously, you had a general manager in, blanking on his name already. Right before Bill. Why am I blanking on his name? I knew it. Help me out here, Tom.
You know what? You caught me not ready for that.
Really? Why am I blanking on his name? Very analytics driven. Oh, John Chayka.
John Chayka. Yeah.
I don't know why his name slipped my mind. John.
Chayka, what's funny is I'm thinking of all the assistant GMs or the guys that I was working with in Tucson. That's funny.
Fair, like Sullivan. I think was he still around at that time?
Yep.
Anyways, there, but John Chayka, who was very quote analytics driven. Ask anyone in the analytics community, they've never really claimed him, but he was very. A lot of the guys that he had were more undersized. They were more, skill driven for whatever reason, or one way or another. And Crouse just never really fit that. Now you put him into a system, not just from Andre Tourigny's and his coaching style, but in Bill Armstrong and his general manager style, who's very big, who's very physical. He fits perfectly into that. That probably really helped a bunch going into his confidence levels.
Which is interesting because if you were to just on paper read Lawson Crouse and then think of Rick Tockett's style, you would think, oh, those two should dovetail nicely. But for whatever reason, they didn't. And that's not a knock on either one of those guys, but it just didn't work. And as the old adage goes, you can't fire the players, so you fire the coach. And you turn to a different direction then. You don't want more of the same. If what you're doing is not working, you've got to change it. So I think that he benefited from that just tremendously. It was a different view for this organization now and a different way of looking at things. And I really like for Utah the fact that he's part of a younger core that is maturing together, that these guys are all a part of things and they're bonded that way. And I think that brings a lot more significance to them in the room, out on the ice. I think it's very important for them because they're fighting for each other. They've been around each other. This isn't a team just thrown together like expansion, if you will. It takes a while to build that, but that's something Utah doesn't have to build. They have that core coming in. They have that identity already built within that room. And
the chemistry on the ice is going to work so perfectly because the core is already there. They're just building around them at this point, adding the rest of them into the mix, which we're going to continue to see as this team builds its way towards the playoffs. We're going to get some final thoughts on this, but first, a quick word from our sponsors. All right, let's keep things rolling. Finishing up our thoughts. Let's shift now towards this, towards the Utah and towards the future for Lawson Crouse. What we're going to expect from him going forward, because he's going to continue. He's going to be here around for a long time. I think what his contract is got some years on it. He's going to be around, and let's be frank though. If you are a Utah fan, you want him around.
You do. You've got 3 more years at 4.3 million, which if he continues to produce at that rate, that's not a bad contract. I like
Good.
that. If his production improves, then he becomes a bargain at that 4.3 million. And don't forget with the cap going up here this year, and I'm sure it will in subsequent years, Robyn, he's really poised to, and we'll talk about the expectations here. He is poised to become a potential bargain signing.
And he will be. And I feel like that's kind of what's benefiting the this Utah Hockey Club is when you take a look at what his contract is worth, and maybe even once this contract is done, as I feel like the way things are, and it's very team friendly. That's kind of what he's been. He's like you just take a look at the way he is. He just has that team first mentality.
Yeah,
Wants
he
to
really
be there.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a guy you need. You need several of those guys. And the fact that, again, he's producing. When I'm setting targets for Crouse right now, I'm looking at this year, my minimum for him is to get to 25 goals. I think he can do that. And 45 points I'm setting as a minimum for him. That's a bar to get over. It's a very, very marginal improvement, but it's an improvement. What I would like to see him do is challenge 30 goals. I don't think he'll get to it, but challenge 30 goals. And I would like to see him get past 50 points this year. I think he can do it, especially with the time on the power play. And again, he's a pretty balanced scorer, goals versus assists. I'd just like to see him shoot the puck a little more. I think if he does, he would have a legit chance to get to 30.
Maybe there's a decent chance. Maybe again, there are some young guys that are coming up through the pipeline who are going to get full seasons, who are going to get another look. I mean, let's remember Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley are coming back for another season.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, I'm not saying to have both of them, but like one of them you can pair alongside Crouse. Crouse can essentially be like a on ice coach for them. You have Andre Tourigny on the bench, but you have Crouse out there to kind of help teach them around, get some goals, get some points out there. That's what his role is going to be. He's going to be a leader. And that kind of goes into another thought I want to bring up, Tom. He may not be the best player on the ice. He's a fine player. He's a great player. Definitely one of the top ones, at least right as of right now. But he's definitely not going to be the best. That's what Clayton Keller is right now. But he is a leader. He's, as I mentioned earlier, he's a team first kind of guy. He's a leader, and he's going to do that. And this is the very reason why I've wanted to discuss Crouse for the last couple of weeks. We teased it for a while, Tom, on who I think, and maybe even you yourself, could best be the best fit for this Utah Hockey Club's first captain. I don't think there would be any other better than Lawson Crouse.
I think his name has to be in the mix. And I'll be interested to see if they do name a captain right off the hop here. And again, it is different. It's not as if you're putting a franchise together, you're going to put 4 A's on guys and figure it out. This team played last year. This franchise has been going for a while. It's not as if they're leaderless heading into this. But you've got one more year of Kerfoot, one more year of Bukestad. I don't know if they have plans to bring those players back after that. And at 29 and 31, they're kind of getting to that age where maybe you let them go. Maybe you try to bring in someone just slightly younger, and they have that veteran presence there. You can't lose that. But in that next year, which is this upcoming season, that's where you also want your Kellers and Crouses and those guys to roll into those, particular positions within the leadership group. So again, I wouldn't mind if he put a C on his jersey coming up for this year. I think that'd be an interesting play, and a guy who, again, you talk about the team first mentality, and is actually like a genuinely good guy to be around. I think other players like him a lot, and I know fans will once they get to know his personality in Utah a little bit. I think that'd be a great move if they put the C on him.
And once again, we can even take in a little bit of a callback to his time in Tucson, because we've got to remember how he was even back then when we were interviewing him back then during his time in Tucson. I always enjoyed interviewing him, the media scrums that members of the print media would have after the games, talking with him outside the locker room. I really enjoyed those. I feel like he had, genuinely nice guy. And that was, and now we're all, like at this point, it feel like I'm dating myself here. That was like what, 7, 8, almost 8 years ago at this point. It feels like that's a long time. It feels like a long time for a hockey career to change since then, but still the same good guy.
Well, first of all, bite your tongue, Robyn. That was not a long time ago. That was yesterday. So I don't want to hear it. It does. It goes by so quick, though.
It does. And yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, you're right. I mean, it does feel like yesterday, but then, obviously I'll have some, I'll be working with a kid who's 17 and they'll make me feel old, even though I'm in my 20s. I don't know why they do it, but
let me tell you, it doesn't get any easier as you get older. It does not get any easier. So just try to stay young as long as you can. But all of that said, I do want to just make one more point about Lawson Crouse, if I can. And that's just that, like, this guy, when he comes in to the room in Utah and when this team makes its transition over, one thing that I think is kind of underrated and underappreciated with players is their community involvement. And one of the basic tenets with Utah and this new ownership group and everything they're looking, one of the phrases they use is community obsessed. And so I look at a player like Crouse and a guy who is affable with the fans. He's easy to get along with, I think that he's also, because this appears to be an organization that's going to want to be incredibly involved in the hockey community and beyond of Utah, drawing new people to the game. So I also think on that point, he is an excellent person to have on this team.
And I firmly believe he will be for the years to come, even past when his contract is up. I have a feeling he's going to be on this team for quite a long time, because he's got the chemistry, he's got he's already got the drive, and he's got the personality for it. He's got the leadership for it.
And now you get to build something and be part of something brand new that, can develop in Utah. And to some guys, that's worth an awful lot when it comes to a career. So,
which is the very reason why a lot of people have made criticisms of who wants to come to Salt Lake, because they have their preconceived thoughts about what the city is like. But let's be real. It's what you just said right there, Tom. Some players are going to want to come in here because of they're able to build that. The players that are already coming in, like Lawson Crouse, they already get the opportunity from the get-go. It's like, we can be there on day one.
Right. And that's not something everybody craves, but some guys love to be that first building block, that first season of a team. And I will say this, outside of winning a championship, being on a team that plays its first season in a new city, whether it's expansion or relocation, is something incredibly special. I've talked to a lot of players who've done it. There's a bond there that can't ever be taken away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am excited to see what comes from the future of Lawson Crouse during his time in Utah.
Me too. Can't wait. Let's drop the puck. Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's go. All right. That's going to be it for today's episode of Locked On NHL in Utah. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As a reminder, we're going to continue our Get to Know You series, kind of talk about some of these other players who are coming in from the Coyotes on over to this Utah Hockey Club, as well as get you guys ready for the 2024 NHL Draft, the free agency period, training camp, and the first season for the NHL in Utah. If you don't forget to interact with us on social media. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnNHL in Utah, and on X at @LO_NHL Utah. I am at Robyn_Leonio. Tom Callahan is at Callahan on air. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We may answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On NHL in Utah podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. We'll see you guys next time.